Invincible is no hero. Now that's a given because he literally says it in the comics. But in recent times, there seems to be more and more Invincible banter online, switching up on Mark Grayson and how stubborn and irritating he actually is. And after the release of Dispatch, people have started to see through the eyes of Cecil, and how he manages to keep a superhero organization together, and comparing how he operates compared to Robert Robertson III. But the biggest question on most of our minds is how Robert would be able to train not only the strongest being on the planet, but one of the most misguided and most traumatized characters in his own universe. There's absolutely no need to introduce this dude even further, so we have to ask the question y'all are here for. What would happen if SDN recruited Invincible into their program? To make things even better, what if Adhoc implemented an Invincible-like character in Season 2 of Dispatch so we can find out for ourselves? If you want that question answered, skip to the timestamp on screen to go there. Or you can be a real one and watch the entire video. Now, hear me out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and in today's short, I'm going to be discussing Dispatch in its second season.
Dispatch Season 2 is leaked. Dispatch Season 2 will be announced at Game Awards according to this leak. Mohawk is only
multiple seasons of this game. You know,
Talks about Dispatch Season 2 has been raised to the devs to the point where they are actually considering it. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but I do know one thing. They're going to need a compelling story. A story that could top the previous season and keep the fans glued to their seats in anticipation for the next 2 episodes every Wednesday. If you've been on this channel before, you know that stories are our specialty around here. But before we get into what I've written up, we need to ask the question: what is the most valuable thing a hero has? Now, most of you will answer that their moral compass and their values are their most valuable things. Sure, I can run with that, and that's a damn good answer. But realistically, we have to look at it this way. What makes a superhero, well, super? Their powers, their abilities, their skills. All of these factors are basically the standard for being a superhero, besides the moral and values that they hold. Take Blonde Blazer for an example. She gets her powers from an amulet that was given to her by what we can assume is a family heirloom. We can talk about Blonde Blazer another time, but the main point is she is marked as one of the most powerful heroes in the verse at the time of the writing of this video, and she is basically heavily dependent on her powers when she's out in the field. So what happens if you rip that away from them? What if you take away the most important part of being a hero from their grasps just like that? What if somehow there was someone smart enough to create, say, a virus that could take away the powers of any super it comes into contact with? It could be a whisper in the wind, gossip amongst the underbelly of the Dispatch universe. There could be a word spreading about someone developing some kind of virus that could take away a super's powers if it could somehow make contact with their blood or get into their body. Knowing how much supers rely on their powers in this universe, I believe SDN would be the first responders when it comes to getting the word of this virus. I mean, having the superhero dispatch network deal with a virus that literally strips you of your abilities to do good makes the most sense.
My back! Oh, my back!
This is where we have to answer the second question that most of you are asking by now. Where the fuck does the Invincible knockoff come in?
You might as well give up.
Now, it's no secret the majority of the Z-Team and the heroes in Dispatch are inspired by well-known heroes and villains in different forms of superhero media. And Invincible himself is a knockoff of Superman alongside with a dozen other heroes. Now, Dispatch already has a Superman in their universe being Phenomenon. All things considered, he has the personality and intellect of Starfire in the body of the Man of Steel, but we're going to save Phenomenon for down the line later in this video. Right now, let's focus on Invincible. Dispatch is, by all means, should be a hero. This Invincible could be strong, if not stronger than Phenomenon in terms of indestructibility and raw strength, overwhelming villains with ease in very inefficient ways. He could let the fight go longer because he knows these villains can't do anything to him. So he plays around with them, making them feel like they have a chance, only to stand there and take it all there blow for blow without even flinching. Now, I know what you're thinking. No, this isn't Velma 2023. I can't describe this hero further without giving him a proper name. So let's call him Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh would have an ego that could rival anyone's on the Z-Team, to the point where when SDN decides to recruit him to be a part of the program, he would have one of the biggest heads on the roster, and I don't mean it that way. Every dispatch goes near perfectly with Gilgamesh 100%ing the calls that you assign him to. But immediately right after those calls, another call from the same area rings back about severe collateral damage and multiple people injured, having you to send out the Z-Team to clean up his mess. The first few episodes could have Gilgamesh be on the top of the SDN's leaderboard, but as the episodes go on, he starts to slide further and further down as more and more calls about his reckless fights and blatant disregard for others in the field have gotten too far off their hinges, sending him down to the Phoenix program, along with the other Z-Team. This is where the plot points meet. You have someone that is virtually indestructible and stronger than the poster boy of SDN, and a virus that could strip any hero of their powers. Now, why the hell would we care about someone who couldn't care less about the people around him? A lot like Invisigal's storyline, Gilgamesh could most likely be the next focus on redemption. With an ego the size of Mount Fuji, Robert does his best to try and bring this super back down to earth. I like to believe that there would be a fight between the Z-Team and Gilgamesh where he learns that he still can get overpowered if he gets too confident and reliant on the fact that no one can touch him. This will be completely up to everyone, like in the last season, on how they want to go about the story, but there will be a turning point midway through the season. At this point, Robert and the Z-Team have chipped away at Gilgamesh's character, and he starts to become more careful with his saves, taking fights to the skies, ending them as soon as possible for less collateral damage. Gil warms up to the Z-Team. So much so where he invites the entire team out for drinks. But not at a bar, not at a villain pub or anything. Instead, it's at his place. They pull up one at a time like the housewarming party in season 1. But this time, it's just, them hanging out. When the night would finally die down, Gilgamesh gets a little into his feelings. He would tell the team that the only reason why he was such an asshole and why he was such a dick was because deep down, he's got a massive insecurity. He tells the Z-Team that he puts on this facade of being an immovable and all-powerful hero because he's scared that if the villains see that he shows any signs of weakness, they'll take full advantage of that. So, he completely lets his ego take control whenever he's out on the field. He knows nothing can hurt him, and he knows nothing can stop him. Though, After joining the Z team, he realizes how reckless he's gotten, how much more harm he does, nearly outweighing the good that he does. He thanks Robert and the Z team for bringing him back down to reality. And then the night would go on as usual. Now that Gilgamesh has been brought down to earth, what about the climax? We can't have the same emotional sacrifice like they did with Chase now, can we?
Keep up.
No! Wrong.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
Remember when I said Phenomenon is already basically the Superman in this universe if he had the IQ of Starfire, or if he was raised on his home world instead of Earth? He is actually going to be the second focus of the story. Phenomenon has little to no connection to the human race. The only thing that ties him to us is his physical form. He states over and over again that he is indeed not human. He only resembles one. Not quite understanding our culture, I believe having Phenomenon be the second focus of the game would be a really good parallel to Gilgamesh's main story. All things considered, I believe he would indeed have joined the Z team at the end of the season, regardless if you picked him over Waterboy or not. It's completely up to you. This is because I think after bonding with the team, I believe he would be more than intrigued to learn the culture of humans and what it actually means to be human.
I only came in as I thought we were playing Magic the Gathering tonight. I am hoping we still may.
This is where Robert and the Z team come in. I believe guiding Phenomenon to be less of an isolated alien who believes being a hero is all there is to his existence, into being one with the people that he saves, and actually getting to know them outside of being a hero would be the right move to go. I mean, come on. He doesn't even have a secret identity. He is Phenomenon. Phenomenon is Phenomenon 24/7. All he knows to do is be a hero. Save people 24 hours, 7 days a week. I think Robert and Blonde Blazer would agree that Phenomenon should have a deeper understanding on being human by trying to live as a human himself. Now, right there could be mirrored to the same dilemma a lot of us had in the first season when it came to the romance option. No, we are not going to romance either of the Supermen. Only this time, we get to choose who to prioritize. You can bring the idiotic dude who believes that he's all that when in reality he's just a cocky asshole and teach him the ropes of being an actual hero. Or show this pillar of hope, the face of SDN, what it actually means to be human. Now, it could go both ways, but I believe if you can somehow balance out both, like the Blonde Blazer romancers out there that will romance Mandy and still save Invisible from herself and teach her the ways of being a hero. Ultimately, it comes down to who do you want to save first. And it will all lead to the last few episodes of the seasons. They get a lead on the villain concocting this virus, and the Z team mobilized to take care of that operation. Now, before getting into the finale, this villain will obviously make their presence be known at the beginning of the series. I'd say that she was the first villain we try and stop in the opening scene, like what we did with Shroud's hideout. But this time I'd say we do beat her in the first episode. But before we get her in cuffs, she hits one of the Z team heroes and it causes a whole distraction for her to get away. Now, the most reasonable person to take this proto-virus should be a fan favorite. Now, this could go either way. The protovirus's effect could only last for an episode so that the hero gets right back on their feet in the next episode, or it could be a second driving point in the story. Having one of your teammates lose their powers, forcing them to sit and stay in recovery, will have a second motive on why you want to hunt down the alchemist of this virus. Now, it only makes sense to name this villain Viper, considering she would be using blades laced with this virus. Not only would it be a hard fight in the field, but her smarts could be one of the smartest in the verse. Because figuring out a virus that could stop a super from being super, no normal scientist can pull off. You should have syndrome levels of IQ to pull something off like that. But still, I believe the latter over the former would be awesome because I think, hear me out, Blonde Blazer going powerless for a whole season would make the most sense. Her revealing that she also was not born with powers is what I believe a really good story beat would be in it of itself. She can be a dispatcher for a whole season and relearn the ropes on how Robert does his job while her amulet is out of commission. While helping Phenomenon and Gilgamesh in both of their paths, I think Phenomenon seeing Mandy without her powers would spark even more intrigue in his journey in learning how to be human. Seeing the human behind the super would most likely spark something in him, mostly curiosity. I think Blonde Blazer and Robert would be locked in on making Phenomenon more human than super, leading the Phenomenon to realize that Mandy is more than just Blonde Blazer, making him realize what he'd lost, and ultimately move on, finding a secret identity and his own way, and starting anew as a human, but also Phenomenon. Balancing out both, living like Blonde Blazer did. I can talk about Phenomenon's redemption in being human for literal hours, but let's get to the finale first. I believe the finale should be plain and simple. Big fight at the end like in the first season, but this time it would focus on Phenomenon and Gilgamesh working better as a team alongside the Z-Team. Like when the team distracts Viper and Gilgamesh and Phenomenon go in for heavy strikes. When Viper seemingly is down for the count, depending on who you picked to focus on. Either Phenomenon or Gilgamesh would tower over her and turn their back as soon as they see her pass out. But as if it wasn't the most obvious fake out, she blinks and tries to stab whoever you chose and the supers that you didn't choose. Takes the sword to the chest, trying to protect their comrade. Before you can take them down completely, Viper would reveal that she has bombs planted across the warehouse with the virus. So, if they don't find them, all of the supers in the building will lose their powers. Knocking her out, everyone finds a bomb individually, and Robert tries to fly them out into the atmosphere. But his suit was not built for off-world travel, leading to multiple red warnings in his suit. As all hope seems lost, you'd think it's okay. Robert doesn't have powers, it won't affect him. But the super that you did not pick would super speed themselves up to Mecha Man, taking the bombs out into space, throwing them as far off as they can, but still get hit from the shockwave. When they plummet back down to Earth, Robert's systems would come back online and obviously catch them. But we're left to find out that they too have lost their powers. But hey, there's a cure for the virus, so basically it was all worth it in the end. It would be proof that these heroes were willing to give up their powers so that their friends could continue being super. It proves that they were willing to give up their livelihood for the greater good of supers out there. Invincible himself wants to be a hero. He wanted to be one ever since Omni-Man became one. Once he got what he wished for, he found out that being a hero in his universe is one of the most bullshit things to be. It only makes sense for Robert and the Z team to actually show him what Robert himself has learned. You can't do everything alone. And it's not about the power that makes the hero. It's what you do that defines one. I think Mark would fit right in with the team. Under all that stubbornness, under all of that selfishness, I believe Mark was the product of a bad environment. Let's face it, the new Guardians of the Globe aren't exactly the best people to be around. And Cecil is such a horrible mentor figure to have around someone like Mark. I believe if Mark was recruited by SDN and brought into the Z team, I believe he would fit right in. A universe where heroes are actually heroes and villains want to turn their lives around and be heroes, that's right up his alley. He never wanted to turn to the dark side. He never wanted to take a life. And he never wanted to give in to the Viltrumite tradition. He just wanted to be a hero. Like he thought his dad was. Saving people the best way he could, stop the world from being invaded by aliens, and being surrounded by the same people who has the same belief as him. This is why SDN feels more like a home to Invincible more than his home universe. Because here, Mark can be the one thing he always wanted to be, a hero.